Imagine waking up and the world you knew is no more. A loud bang, a bright flash, and now, silence. A nuclear cloud hangs menacingly in the sky. Cities are but shadows of their former selves. You look around and all you see is ash and destruction. You are alone, completely alone. In this episode, we are on the ultimate mission of survival. Can you make it in the wasteland where the rules of civilization no longer apply? We'll find out together. Welcome to the survival struggle of the post-apocalypse. In this episode of How to Stay Alive. Surviving in a devastated world, all alone. Step 1. Initial orientation in the new world. Imagine stepping out of your shelter and looking around at the world you once knew. Now it's a wreckage, a shadow of its former self marked by an apocalyptic strike of destruction. Everything that once was familiar is now foreign and threatening. But it's precisely in these moments that it's crucial to keep a cool head and focus on the most fundamental aspects of survival. Orientation is key. Try to get an overview of your immediate surroundings. Which buildings are still standing? Are there sources of food and water nearby? How secure is your current position? Don't forget to always be cautious and vigilant. The world is now a dangerous place, and not just because of radiation. Ruins can collapse, and there's no guarantee you're the only creature still lurking nearby. Your first priority should always be your safety. In summary, the most important thing in this first step is not to let the sheer magnitude and threat of the situation overwhelm you. You're a survivor, and you've made it this far. With the right skills and the right attitude, you can survive in this new, inhospitable world too. Step 2. Finding shelter and refuge. Having gotten a bit of your bearings, it's time to start looking for a safe haven. You need to protect yourself not just from the elements, but from the constant threat of radiation as well. In your search for a shelter, abandoned buildings or caves might come in handy. Look for something that's sturdy enough to protect you from wind and weather, and far enough away from the source of radiation to ensure your safety. Make sure the place you choose is secure and easy to defend. It's important to remember that the shelter you choose doesn't have to be your permanent home. It's just a place where you can be safe while you plan your next steps. In time, you might find a better place or acquire the means to improve your shelter. And remember, in this new world, vigilance is key. Stay alert. Keep an eye out for other survivors and potential threats, and learn to trust your instinct. For in this new, shattered world, instinct is often the only thing standing between you and death. Step 3. Gathering and rationing supplies. Now that you've found a safe shelter, it's time to think beyond the bare minimum. It's time to go scavenging for supplies and make a plan for their rationing. Because in a world where supermarkets and grocery stores are nothing but deserted ruins, finding and preserving food and water is critical to your survival. You might find abandoned canned goods or food that hasn't spoiled in the ruins. There might be natural sources like rivers or lakes nearby where you can find water. Or perhaps you'll have to resort to hunting and gathering, just like our ancestors once did. Whichever path you choose, it's important to have a plan. Ration your supplies carefully. Always bear in mind that you don't know when you'll find food or drink next. And make sure to store your supplies securely to protect them from animals and other potential threats. In this new, harsh reality, the smart use of resources is key. Every bite, every sip can make the difference between another day of survival and the end of your journey in this post-apocalyptic world. Before we continue, we want to briefly show you something exciting. There's a product that could be a real lifesaver in this post-apocalyptic situation. It could help you weather the toughest days and support you on your path to survival. Curious? Click the link in the video description to find out what it is. But hurry up, we won't wait here forever. Now let's continue with the video. Step 4. Radiation protection and hazard recognition. Radiation exposure is one of the greatest threats in this post-apocalyptic world. Radiation is invisible and odorless, but its effects can be devastating. That's why it's crucial to protect yourself from radiation as best you can and to recognize potential hazards. First and foremost, it's important that you avoid radiation sources whenever possible. These can be places where atomic bombs have exploded or places where radioactive waste was stored. But how do you recognize these places? Sometimes you can recognize them through physical signs, like scorched earth or dead plants and animals. A Geiger counter can be an incredibly useful tool to detect radiation. But even if you don't have one, there are other signs you can look for, like nausea, weakness, or skin changes that may indicate radiation sickness. Radiation protection can take many forms. Thick, lead-containing materials can help shield against radiation, and distance from a radiation source can greatly reduce your exposure. But even simple measures like washing food and water before consumption or avoiding contaminated dust and dirt can make a big difference. In a world where invisible dangers lurk, knowledge is power. And in this new radioactive world, knowledge of radiation protection and hazard recognition can mean the difference between life and death. Step 5. First aid and medical care. In a world where there are no longer hospitals or doctors, you are now your own paramedic, your own doctor. Learning basic first aid techniques can save your life, or at least help you cope with the everyday health challenges of this new world. Small wounds can quickly become big problems if not properly treated. Infections are an ever-present danger in this post-apocalyptic world and can be lethal without proper treatment. That's why it's important that you learn how to clean and care for wounds and how to recognize signs of infection early. In addition, you may become ill due to radiation exposure or malnutrition. Recognizing the symptoms and knowing how to treat them can ensure your survival. Whether it's treating diarrhea with natural remedies or alleviating the symptoms of radiation sickness, knowledge of basic medical techniques is invaluable. You may be able to find medical supplies in the ruins of the old world, or you may need to learn how to make natural remedies from plants and herbs. Whatever your situation, in a world where the next hospital may never be reachable again, learning first aid and medical self-care is not a luxury, but a necessity. Step 6. Building a base and long-term survival strategy. Now it's time to deal with the longer-term future. That means building a base and developing a strategy for long-term survival. You can't live from day to day forever. You need to start planning for the future now. A solid base is more than just a safe place to sleep. It's a place where you can grow food, collect water, and protect yourself from the elements. It's a place where you can live and thrive, not just survive. Look for a location that is both safe and resource-rich. Maybe it's an abandoned cabin in the mountains, a bunker built deep into the ground, or a hidden spot in the ruins of a city. Wherever it is, it needs to be able to provide you with protection, food, and water. And then there's the long-term survival strategy. That means stockpiling supplies, building a sustainable food and water supply, and preparing for potential dangers. Maybe that means collecting seeds and starting a garden, or learning how to collect and purify rainwater. Maybe it means setting up defenses against possible threats. In this new world, day-to-day survival is important, but to truly thrive, you need to start planning for the future now. Step 7. Self-defense and security measures. In a world marked by the chaos of nuclear annihilation, the ability to defend yourself is more important than ever. Security is no longer something to be taken for granted, but something you have to ensure yourself. Self-defense starts with awareness of your surroundings. You have to be constantly vigilant, alert to signs of danger, whether from wild animals, radiation, or other survivors who may not be as peaceable as you. But self-defense also means being able to physically defend yourself when it comes down to it. In this new world, you are your own protector. Self-defense and security are no longer options, they are now a necessity. Step 8. Building psychological resilience. Surviving in a post-apocalyptic world requires more than just physical strength and skills. It also requires psychological resilience. You have to learn to cope with loneliness, uncertainty, and constant stress. You have to learn to keep hope alive despite all adversities. Mental strength begins with acceptance. You have to accept that your old world no longer exists and focus on what you can do to survive in this new world. It's natural to feel grief and loss, but you also have to find a way to move forward. Routine can help create a sense of normality and manage stress. Maybe that means getting up at the same time every day, accomplishing a certain task, or taking time to nurture your mind, whether it's through meditation, writing in a journal, or learning new skills. Above all, you have to learn to be alone without being lonely. Find ways to entertain yourself and keep your mind busy. Learn to enjoy the silence and find peace in your solitude. In this new world, your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It's up to you to decide which one it will be. Step 9. Ensuring long-term quality of life. Survival is more than just breathing and eating. It's about maintaining a quality of life that allows you not just to exist, but to live. In a post-apocalyptic world, this might seem difficult, but it's not impossible. You've learned how to orient yourself, seek shelter, gather supplies, avoid radiation, provide medical care, and defend yourself. Now it's about creating and maintaining a quality of life that goes beyond mere survival. Maybe that means you need to find ways to express yourself artistically, whether it's through drawing, writing, or music. Or maybe it means you need to take time to appreciate the new world around you, find beauty in the chaos. It could also mean that you need to learn new skills that not only make your life safer and more efficient, but also more fulfilling. Maybe you learn how to craft useful items from scrap, or maybe you learn how to utilize the resources around you to cook healthier and tastier food. Securing long-term quality of life means finding a way to find happiness and contentment despite the adversities. It means paying attention not just to surviving, but to living. Step 10. Search for other survivors. Up to this point, you've learned how to survive alone. You've established a base, gathered supplies, prepared for dangers, and bolstered your mental well-being. Now, in the 10th and final step of our journey, it's time to look beyond the solitude. Now it's time to search for other survivors. It's not certain if there are other survivors, but the hope that you're not alone can give you strength. It can give you a reason to keep going, to keep searching, to keep surviving. Start by noticing possible signs of human activity. It could be a smoke signal in the distance, a fresh footprint, or a conspicuously placed item. Be cautious, as not every survivor might be friendly. But at the same time, every survivor you meet could be a new chance. Maybe you can collaborate, share resources, learn from each other, and give each other support. Maybe you can build something new together, restore a bit of normalcy in this devastated world. The search for other survivors is more than just the desire for company. It's the hope for a better future, for the possibility that survival is more than just endurance. It's the hope for life itself. If you want to know now how to survive a concentration camp, then click on this video now.